Introducing YouTube memberships, a fun way to support the channel while getting some exclusive perks. Click the join button to become a member now and get benefits like badges next to your name on videos, behind-the-scenes photos, advantages during the live trivia game, discounts on merchandise, private one-on-one video chats, the ability to request future video topics, and exclusive 8 to 10 minute videos on the history of the NFL. And now, on with our feature presentation. Yep, 2 dumb decisions episodes in one day from yesterday's games. A doubleheader, if you will. God, the coaching yesterday sucked. September 24th, 2023. It's week 3 of the NFL season, and we've got a battle in the AFC between the Baltimore Ravens and the Indianapolis Colts. Both of these teams are in a decent spot through 2 weeks, and a win here would be nice for either of these sides, especially considering the historic nature of this rivalry, with Baltimore losing their team in the middle of the night in 1984 to Indianapolis. There's definitely some bad blood here. For Baltimore, they're one of just 2 teams in the conference to sit at 2-0. So if you win this game, you keep a hold on first place in the AFC North, and keep pace with the Miami Dolphins for the early lead on the number 1 seed in the conference. Just as I say that, the Dolphins scored another touchdown. As for Indianapolis, win this game, and because the Jaguars forgot that the season started, and their receivers forgot how to use these things attached to your arms called hands, you get first place in the AFC South. Shocking, I know. Big game for both sides early on, I'll put it that way. As for how this game played out, following a beautiful punt by second-year punter Jordan Stout, the Colts find themselves pinned at their own 2-yard line, down by 1 point, and needing to drive about 60 or so yards to get into field goal range for Matt Gay. They only have 1 timeout, and they've got 2:14 to do it. It's not going to be easy, but it's doable, so long as backup quarterback Gardner Minshew doesn't do anything stupid like, I don't know, run out of the back of the end zone for a save.
Stepping out, pulling his own Dan Orlovsky right in the back of the end zone. You have to know where you are.
Oh, Minshew, look, I love you, man, but what are you doing? That probably just cost you guys the game. Now, you're down by 3, and you've got to punt it back to the Ravens with 2:03 left on the clock. Absolutely abysmal on-field awareness by Minshew there. The Ravens pretty much have this game on lock. With 2:03 left, and the Colts having 1 timeout, all you need to do is catch this punt, run around for 3 seconds to get down to the 2-minute warning, and then drain the clock. Barring a block punt, or some ridiculous fluke the likes of which would live on in NFL history, you're going to come out on top. John Harbaugh, you're about to be 3-0. John Harbaugh, you're about to be in a fantastic spot going forward. Just don't have your team do something insane like, I don't know, fair catch this kick, and you're...
I can't believe they kicked it off.
Wow. Boots it away, and Zay Flowers will just go back and make the fair catch.
He should have ran the ball there and got it down to the 2-minute warning. That was a mistake.
Oh my god, you did not actually just do that. Well, I'm sure leaving all that time on the clock because of that stupidity won't come back to bite you in any way whatsoever. Right?
Money.
On its way, and it is good.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something to look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something to look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the mind of Baltimore Ravens head coach John Harbaugh. What makes this one incredibly bizarre is the fact that Harbaugh's background was in special teams. He became a head coach because of his success as a special teams coordinator. He's one of the few coaches in this league to actually have a special teams background. And this was a giant screw-up on special teams. But this was such an egregious mistake on his end that we need to dive into it, because Harbaugh's stupidity on this play cost the Ravens the game. So with that being said, let's take a look at why calling a fair catch with 2:03 left on a free kick punt following a safety when there's no one around you and you can take it down to the 2-minute warning, is a really bad idea. And I know what you might be thinking already. Isn't this series about bad coaching decisions? Did Harbaugh actually tell Zay Flowers to do this and fair catch the ball? Because if he didn't, then it's not fair to pin this on Harbaugh. And we're going to get into that in just a bit. Because trust me, you're not going to believe Harbaugh's explanation for this. As always, I like to look at the risk and reward analysis of calling the fair catch versus not calling the fair catch in that spot. Let's say you run out the punt and just go down once there's a defender in the vicinity so as not to fumble the ball. Or you run down the sideline so that the moment the defender approaches, you can run out of bounds. A few things can happen in that spot that benefit you. Number one, you get valuable yards of field position. It's a no-risk situation to try and run this punt, seeing as the punting team can't get a running start, and seeing as there is literally not a single person in the frame when you catch this ball. This is not edited in any way whatsoever. This was the perception when the punt was caught. If you run this out like a normal team does in that spot, number one, you get a fair amount of yards, which means that even if you do go 3 and out, you're in a better spot to pin the Colts deep as they try and mount a game-time drive for a field goal. Instead of starting with the ball inside your own 20, you're starting at the 35-yard line or somewhere around that. And even if you only get 5 yards on the ensuing drive and go 3 and out, a 50-yard punt with net means the Colts are starting at their own 10, sort of pinned back, versus with the fair catch, starting at their own 25. That's a huge difference, especially when you only need 3 to tie it up. And again, there's no real risk in terms of fumbling. The only risk is if you muff the punt, but that's the same thing that can happen with a fair catch. But the most important thing, and the obvious takeaway from this, is that if you run the punt and just go down once the clock hits 2 minutes, guess what? You took it to the 2-minute warning. That is absolutely huge. If you run the punt out for 3 seconds, which you're obviously going to do, the Colts only have 1 timeout. Even if you do go 3 and out, assuming you don't do anything stupid like commit a penalty to stop the clock, assuming each play takes 5 seconds, when you call your first down play and the Colts burn a timeout, that's 1:55 left on the clock. Second down, and the play ends with 1:50 on the clock. Start the 40-second play clock, call the third down play with 1:10, the play takes 5 seconds, you go down to 1:05. Start the 40-second play clock. Call a timeout if you're the Ravens once that clock is approaching 0, and you're punting it away with 25 seconds left. Get a good punt, assuming that takes 6 or so seconds, and the Colts, barring something crazy like a block punt like I said before, have to get into field goal range deep in their own territory with about 19 seconds left and no timeouts. Unable to use the middle of the field, having to go 50 or so yards, and without a quarterback who can throw deep. I know from experience. Meanwhile, if you call for a fair catch here, the clock stops at 2 minutes. So now, the Colts have an additional 40 or so seconds to do something. That's a huge difference. That's not throw up a prayer time. That is, we can run an offense and use the whole field territory. You gave them an extra timeout by calling it before the 2-minute warning. That's an extra 7 or 8 plays you just gave them simply by calling a fair catch with no one around. Again, there was no risk whatsoever to catching this punt and running with it for 3 seconds. You don't even have to risk a fumble, because you can literally just go down after 3 seconds and give yourself up. Or you can run out of bounds. If you're fielding this punt anyways, you might as well run with it and take it down to the 2-minute warning. The best case scenario in a fair catch is significantly worse than the worst case scenario if you don't fair catch it. Because again, no defender even has to touch you. Just catch the ball like you would on a fair catch, waste 3 seconds, and go down to the ground untouched. And if you don't trust an NFL player to hold on to the football with literally no one touching him, then he shouldn't be on the field in the first place. And that is an indictment on you. Now, like I said before, if this was a player goofing up and not Harbaugh's doing, then this wouldn't be a dumb decision by him, since that's not the point of the series. The point is to criticize bad decisions made by coaches, not by players. But I had a feeling from the start that Harbaugh ordered Flowers to call for the fair catch here, because by nature, returners are reckless. They love returning. They hate calling fair catch. The amount of times you see a returner try and run with the ball with a gunner bolting straight at them is ridiculously high when it shouldn't be. The amount of times you see a returner call a fair catch with no defender within 40 yards of him is basically non-existent. It's like telling Albert Pujols to lay down a bunt. Pujols is not the guy to be calling that shot. So I definitely had a feeling that Harbaugh put the red light on Flowers. Unsurprisingly, my suspicions were right. But after the game, when Harbaugh talks about why he did it, oh man, it is absolutely terrible. Because Harbaugh said on his decision that he told Zay Flowers to fair catch it because he was under the impression that there were less than 2 minutes left in the game. I am not making that up. In Harbaugh's eyes, there were less than 2 minutes on the clock. I'm sorry, what? You're telling me you can't read a clock? You know, there's a very easy fix around this, and that is to, I don't know, look up at the scoreboard. There's plenty of them around M&T Bank Stadium. If you were that confused with how much time was left in the game, all you had to do was use this brand new technology created by brilliant scientists called your freaking eyeballs. And the excuse about not being able to change the call once he realized his mistake is a load of bull. It is such a garbage excuse. It's pathetic. You know why? You have 3 timeouts left. You had all of your timeouts. If that truly was the case, why didn't you burn one of your 3 timeouts to make sure everyone was in good communication and was on the same page? You had every opportunity to change the outcome, and you chose not to. The 3 timeouts when you're up by 3 with that little time left are not important. You won't need them if you just do your job. Again, barring anything crazy, you do the right thing here, the Colts have about 20 seconds left. So Harbaugh either didn't know how much time was left in the game and didn't bother to look up at the clock, in which case, he's an idiot, or he was confused about the time, and once he realized his mistake with the play call, didn't call timeout to fix the obvious problem, even though you pretty much guarantee yourself a win if you don't have Flowers fair catch this ball. What's more important? Keeping that timeout when you haven't burned any yet, or burning 3 seconds and barring a Hail Mary, winning this game? I thought so. I freaking thought so. If anything, this excuse makes Harbaugh look even worse. At least he knew that his team was winning by 3. I'll give him that much. More than I can say for Josh McDaniels. You decide what's worse, not knowing the clock or not knowing the score. I think the part that's most surprising to me about all of this is that it's clear over the past few years when it comes to in-game management that John Harbaugh has lost his touch. What happened to you, man? Like, seriously, are you okay? What happened to you? This was the same man that brilliantly had his guys hold on a punt that led to a giant loophole in the rulebook being closed. This was a guy that left no stone unturned, especially when it came to special teams. But between the atrocious ending to last year's wildcard game, which I talked about in a Dumb Decisions episode that you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner, and whatever the heck this was, I just don't know anymore. I just don't know. The magic touch might be gone. The odd part about this play is that it actually sets up an interesting loophole in the rulebook that the NFL might want to close sometime soon. If I'm the Colts here, I order my punter, Rigoberto Sanchez, to punt the ball out of bounds intentionally. Yes, it's a penalty. You can't punt it out of bounds on a free kick. And yes, the Ravens get good field position out of it. They get the ball at the Colts' 45-yard line. But even though they get the good field position, the clock's more important. The time that you save, the fact that the Ravens have to get a playoff before the 2-minute warning, that's more important than the field position. You get a better chance to get the ball back than you did before. Now, the Colts got very lucky that the Ravens acted very, very stupid here, and John Harbaugh had no idea what he was doing. But it is something to keep in mind going forward. In a situation like that, and again, it won't happen often, but in a situation like that, why not intentionally punt the ball out of bounds so that you can get an extra play before the 2-minute warning? Just something to keep in mind going forward. So what do we learn from all of this? If you have a chance as the winning team to take the clock down to the 2-minute warning, barring some insane exception that clearly did not apply here, you do it. You absolutely do it. And you don't think twice about it. If you don't trust your return man to hold on to the football, when there's no one within the same zip code as him, and when he can go down or out of bounds on his own power, then don't have him on the field. It's okay to trust your players. If you are confused about something and you have timeouts, then for crying out loud, use them. They don't carry over to the next game. You can't exchange them for prizes at Dave & Buster's. Use the timeouts and make sure everyone's on the same page. If the best case scenario in one option is significantly worse than the worst case scenario in another option, then go with the other option. And if you don't know how much time is left in the game, then look up at the freaking clock. And if you still don't know, then go see an eye doctor. I don't know. Do anything but roam the sidelines of an NFL team and cost your team a win due to your incompetence. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.